What's up guys, my name's Brandon, and today Apple released iOS 26.6 to the general public after going through the beta stages. Now along with this release, Apple also released iPadOS 26.6, watchOS 26.6, tvOS 26.6, HomePod version 26.6, along with visionOS 26.6. But of course in this video, we're focusing on iOS 26.6, and you can see here the size. It came in over 12 gigabytes on my device, and it should be a rather large size for you as well. And if you check out the build number here for this update, you can see the build 23G71. And then there was also an update to the modem firmware as well. That's now 2.70.01. All right, so now what's new here in iOS 26.6? And as always with the 0.6 updates, these are going to be updates that focus primarily on bug fixes, security vulnerabilities, and small changes under the hood. We don't usually see major changes or major features in the 0.6 update. So just know that's going in, that the 0.6 update is going to be a small, mostly under the hood, fix update. So that's exactly what we get here. But the first change I want to talk about is actually a pretty notable one. And if you take a look at the release notes, Apple does also mention this. It says that iOS 26.6 optimizes the Spotlight Index to prepare for iOS 27. And that's actually a pretty big one. So you can't see this, but this is big because it's going to optimize Spotlight, which if you don't know, Spotlight is when you swipe down and you start typing to activate, something in action or just open up an application. You can do that all through Spotlight, and it gets a lot more powerful in iOS 27. However, since iOS 27 has a major upgrade to Spotlight in the new Siri, it's going to depend a lot on indexing, and it takes quite some time. So when we installed the iOS 27 beta, it took over a week for a lot of people to actually finish the initializing and the indexing of Spotlight and everything on a device. So this should help speed up that process once iOS 27 comes out. So this is actually an underrated feature here because it's going to make sense. It's going to basically optimize your device now to make it faster to optimize and kind of sync and optimize for Spotlight when iOS 27 comes out later on here in a few months. This update also makes a change to blocked contacts. So if you go into your settings here and then you go down to privacy and security and you scroll down until you see blocked contacts right here, this will show you all of your blocked contacts. And now with iOS 26.6, there's actually a limit to how many contacts you can block. So there's going to be a new pop-up that shows that you have reached your limit for the amount of blocked contacts. Now it doesn't say exactly how many this is. We've heard some people say 500. We've also seen other sources say 3,000. So it kind of just depends, but it's going to be a lot of people. So you have to have a lot of blocked contacts, but just know that now with 26.6, there is a limit to how many you can actually block. We also see in the code of iOS 26.6 that there's a new kind of anti-theft feature. So Apple is apparently working on an anti-snatching security feature designed to detect when an unlocked iPhone is abruptly taken, and then it will lock the phone automatically when it detects that. So again, this was just found in the code. It does not appear to be active here in 26.6. I was not able to find it anywhere under stolen device protection or anything else. So that's something that's in the code, and it looks like Apple will activate this and kind of launch this at a later date. And what makes this feature really neat is that it uses signals like the accelerometer, your distance from a paired Apple Watch, and whether you're at a familiar location or Wi-Fi network or not. And if it determines that your iPhone was in fact stolen, it will instantly lock the device and enable the same protections as you get with stolen device protection. But I think one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason overall, to update your iPhone to iOS 26.6 is for the amount of security patches. There are over 80 security vulnerabilities that have been patched on iOS and iPadOS 26.6. So you can see all of these right here, and some of these are pretty interesting. So that very first one right there, it shows that iPhone mirroring had data exposure. So it says somebody with physical access may have been able to access sensitive user data through iPhone mirroring. And here's another interesting one for media remote. So it says the impact is an app may be able to gain root privileges, which is among the most serious permissions possible on the device. And it could happen with a third-party app. We also have this one right here where apps can add contacts without permission. And there's also another one that says an app may be able to access information about a user's contacts as well. And there's also quite a few WebKit patches as well. And this one was interesting because there's a WebKit privacy flaw that could let websites know whether you visited a specific link, potentially helping them track or profile you based on if you visited that link or not. So yeah, quite a few security patches here in this update. And I think that it's always worthwhile to update your device to make sure it's as secure as possible, even though none of these are being actively exploited, which means there's been proof of them being used out in the wild. Even though there's no proof of these being actively exploited by Apple, it's still recommended for everybody to go ahead and update their device just so you can keep your device as secure as possible. Now, if you take a look at macOS Tahoe 26.6, there are more than 130 vulnerability fixes. So I would say, this video is mostly about iOS, but still, I just have to say, if you're running macOS Tahoe right now, you should definitely update to macOS Tahoe 26.6 as well. Because again, I always say those security vulnerabilities could be, more negatively impactful to you on your Mac because you usually have a lot more sensitive data on there than your phone in some cases, so you may want to go ahead and update your Mac as well because of all those security vulnerabilities that have been patched. Now, when it comes to the performance on iOS 26.6, I did run a fresh Geekbench score here. We scored a 3523 single core, 8880 on the multi-core, and you can see how that compares to the previous run. I did that back in March, so it's been a little bit since I run a Geekbench score here, but you can see it is stronger on both the single core and the multi-core, and that's what we expect on a 0.6 update. And also, by the way, given the fact that this does optimize everything for iOS 27, kind of just tells you that this is going to be, the last major iOS 26 update. Otherwise, Apple would not already include all the optimization for iOS 27. So don't expect any big changes, any other big like 26.7. We could see a 26.7, but typically it's only double point updates from here on out. We could see, maybe some small changes in 8.7, but this is going to be the main, the last big update, you could call it. So yeah, performance though overall has been great here. Again, just as you'd expect on a 0.6 release, typically one of the final ones you'll see before the next major OS update, which is iOS 27. So really no complaints. I've had no resprings, I've had no lag, really nothing at all. Performance is excellent here on 26.6. And since I am running the beta on my main device, it is nice because I do still use iOS 26 throughout the week on other test devices, and you could tell it's noticeably more stable than iOS 27 beta, which is still good, but it's not quite as good as 26.6 at this point. Now, battery life is also great, and I think battery life is really good on iOS 27 betas as well, but the battery life here on iOS 26.6 is also going to be phenomenal because at this point, pretty much everything is optimized down to the T, down to a T. Everything is perfectly, executing, and everything is just running properly here at this stage in the game for a 0.6 update. So I would not expect any type of decrease in battery life. Sometimes we do see that, but I would not expect that here with 26.6. It should be pretty similar across the board to 26.5 and 26.5.1, but you could see a small bump there in performance and for battery life. Now let's go ahead and talk about what to expect next from Apple, because like I said earlier, 26.6 is very likely going to be the final quote unquote big update for iOS 26, because Apple at this point is focusing almost all their efforts on iOS 27, which is just about, a little over a month away. So I would say that the next update is most likely going to be iOS 26.6.1. So we're most likely going to see a double point update to patch up even more security vulnerabilities and most likely fix any type of bugs, kind of under the hood or anything that may come about here in the coming weeks from iOS 26. So or 26.6. So I think that we could see that at some point. Most likely it's not going to be next week or the week after, maybe the week of August 17th or the 24th, somewhere most likely in the second half of August is when we could see a 26.6.1. Now, like I said, a 26.7 is possible. It would take something that requires, a whole new, major point update. So it's possible, but we could see that at some point as well in August, maybe even early September. So I think for now, though, all eyes, especially for you guys, all eyes and everybody's really focused on is iOS 27, which at this point, we are expecting that most likely to come in mid-September. So we could see that on the week of September 14th. We'll have to wait and see. Apple does typically announce that, so we will have official confirmation before it actually comes out. But my guess right now is most likely around that September 14th mark right there. And that's going to be a big update for all of you, especially if you're somebody who stayed on iOS 18 all this time and kind of skipped iOS 26, which there are a lot of those people out there probably not watching this video, but it is going to be a big update for everybody, especially because of the new Siri changes. That's going to be easily one of the biggest, changes that we're going to see, going from 26.6 to iOS 27. But anyways, guys, there you have it. I think that everybody should go ahead and update to iOS 26.6 at this point because of all these security vulnerabilities that have been patched. Just that alone. I know all the features aren't anything crazy. There's not really any type of major bug fixes or anything like that. At least nothing noteworthy that I felt like it was worth talking about. I haven't really noticed anything. And, so far, I think the biggest compelling reason to update is going to be for security reasons and maybe performance and battery life as well if you were struggling beforehand. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. That was 26.6. Not a ton to talk about, but that's kind of where we are at this stage in the iOS 26 life cycle. But if you enjoyed the video, let me know with a comment down below. If you found anything else new, or if you have any experience that you want to share with your device on iOS 26.6, feel free to let me know down in a comment below. But hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon.